Lily stood in the quiet hall and watched the pale shape of John's body inside the glass sarcophagus. She could not believe how long she had waited. The air here felt heavy with memory. She remembered the day John fell, the shock of his wounds, and the way his hand reached for hers before the lights went out. He had saved an entire colony that day. He had given his life so others could live. She had vowed to guard him then. She knelt beside the sarcophagus and placed her hand on the smooth surface. Her fingers trembled. "I will protect you," she whispered. "I will keep you safe until the end of time." She closed her eyes and breathed deeply. The hall was empty except for her. It was a long room made of pale stone. The walls glowed softly in the light from high windows. In the center lay John, resting in a sleep that might last 1,000 years. Lily stood and took a slow step back. She looked at the stars through the windows. They were bright and distant. They reminded her of the promise she carried. Each day she walked the long path to this tomb. She carried a lantern with a steady flame. She placed fresh water and food next to the sarcophagus. The food was special. It held slow-release nutrients to help keep his body alive. She mixed the food by hand and spoke softly to him as she worked. Her voice felt small in the vast hall, but it carried hope. Over time, Lily learned to move in silence. She studied the ancient texts left by John's people. Those texts spoke of healing and protection. She read them by the light of her lantern. She touched the pages gently, tracing the letters with her fingers. She wanted to know everything that could help her keep John safe. Sometimes she would pause in her study and think of him as a living man. She remembered his warm smile and his firm voice. He had walked into battle with calm eyes and a strong heart. He had looked at her and said, "We can do this together." She had believed him then, and she still did. Lily carried his memory in her heart. It kept her strong. On days when the hall felt empty and cold, she would close her eyes and imagine his voice. She would say to herself, "You are not alone, I am here." And the silence would seem less deep. She built a small garden inside the hall. It was a space of life and green. She planted soft moss and delicate flowers. The plants grew slowly under her care. She watered them with pure water and spoke to them as she spoke to John. She told them how the world outside had changed. The flowers never answered, but they grew strong beside him at night. Lily would sit by the sarcophagus and watch the stars move across the sky. Time passed slowly here. The world beyond changed. New cities rose and fell. But inside this hall, time felt still. She was a constant in that stillness. She kept a simple journal. Each entry was short and plain. She wrote the date and what she had done that day. She noted the strength of the shield spells she had learned and the repairs she had made to the tomb. She wrote of her hope that one day John would wake. She wrote of her fear that he might never wake. Yet she wrote on. Her life became a quiet rhythm. She awoke each day, walked to the sarcophagus, tended to the garden, studied the texts, and repaired the shields. She spoke to John and to the plants and to the stars. And at night she kept her vigil. Still, she allowed herself to hope. Sometimes she knelt and held her lantern close to the glass. She whispered stories of the new worlds she had seen. She spoke of the day when he would open his eyes, of the joy she would feel to see him alive again. Then came the day when she felt a change in the air. A faint tremor ran through the hall. The lantern flickered. Lily's heart beat faster. She stepped closer to the sarcophagus. She placed her hand on the glass and felt a faint warmth. Her breath caught. She knelt beside the glass and touched it again. The warmth grew. She held her lantern close so she could see his face. John's eyes were closed, pale and still. But the warmth puzzled her. It felt alive, like a heartbeat she could almost feel beyond the glass. Fear and hope tangled in her mind. She whispered, "John, is that you? Please wake up." Her voice shook, but she spoke anyway. The lantern's flame steadied. The hall fell silent again. She waited, her hand on the glass. Minutes passed like hours. The warmth faded. The lantern's glow returned to its normal light. Nothing changed. Lily felt tears prick her eyes. She pressed her forehead to the glass. I am here, she told him. I will never leave you. Her voice was soft but firm. She bowed her head and she stayed until the lantern burned low. When she stepped back, she saw the stars outside shift. The world was moving on, and so must she. She lifted her lantern and walked toward the hall entrance. Tomorrow she would test new waking spells. She would gather more herbs and learn new rites. Nothing would stop her. As she left, she turned and whispered once more, I will protect you for all the years I have left. The hall stood quiet in reply. But Lily knew the vow was alive. It lived in her heart, and in each lantern-lit step she took along the silent corridors that led away from John's waiting form. She walked on, carrying her promise through the night, holding the hope that one day she would see him open his eyes. Again, until then, she would guard his body, and she would keep her vow. Lily stood at the entrance to the hall and took a slow breath. She felt the change in the air as she stepped inside. The glass sarcophagus where John lay was just as she left it. She set down her lantern and walked closer. The faint glow of the stars outside spilled through the windows and touched the smooth glass. She knelt beside the tomb and placed a hand on the cool surface. Her fingers traced the curved edge. She remembered how fragile he looked when she first laid him to rest. He had wounds deep and dark, but she had carried him here with care. Now, centuries later, she still cared for him the same way. Outside the hall, the world had changed. Lily had watched entire empires rise and fall. She had seen great cities built of shining metal and glass. She had seen them abandoned and reclaimed by sand and stone. She had learned new languages and studied new ideas. Yet here she stayed, a constant presence beside John. Each age brought new challenges. When the first age of machines came, Lily learned to repair the ancient shield generators. She climbed narrow metal stairways under cold hums of power. She wound wires and calibrated crystals that glowed with inner fire. She studied old schematics until her eyes grew tired. Then she slept under a shaded dome of woven vines and trusted her memory to hold each instruction. In another age, the stars themselves shifted. A great comet passed close to the system. The sky burned with blue and gold light for nights on end. Lily climbed to the roof of the hall and watched the sky. She felt awe and fear. She whispered, You would have smiled at this sight, John. But she spoke only to the glass. No voice answered. She built her routines to live through time. Each day she cleaned the glass, polished the frame, and checked the seals. She set fresh water in a clay bowl carved with patterns she made herself. She mixed nutrient packets she learned to grow from alien plants. She spoke to John in a soft tone. I am here. I will not leave you. Sometimes she imagined him blinking. Awake. As centuries passed, Lily's own form stayed the same. Her skin held its pale glow, her eyes looked young. But in her heart she aged. She remembered smiling faces that turned old and lost their shape. She remembered friends she made in distant worlds, smugglers, scholars, healers, then watched them vanish. She kept journals of their names and stories. She wrote in them until her hand ached. She read the journals often. She opened the pages and saw her own past in ink. She saw the letters of her friends and the sketches of new ships. She smiled at their dreams. Then she closed the book and returned to the hall. Her dreams were simple now. To see John wake and stand beside her. In one age, a plague swept through the system. She donned a mask and robes and went into sick rooms to help. She carried vials of medicine she learned to make from local herbs. She treated the ill and the dying. But she always returned to John's side. She washed his body with scented oils to keep his flesh from failing. She sang soft songs of hope as she worked. Later, a war raged across the sky. Dark ships shot beams of light that burned moons. Lily stepped onto the battlements of the hall and fought with a blade that shone like ice. She drove back raiders and saved families. She heard cries for help and rushed to broken towns. But each night she came back until dawn to tend to the tomb. Through all this, she learned new magic. She studied the chants of ice worlds and the runes of fire people. She wove protective spells into the glass and the frame. She tested each line of power with careful hands. She watched energy pulse through the seals. She felt pride in her work. Yet nothing mattered as much as keeping John safe. Sometimes she felt loneliness so sharp it cut like glass. She would sit in the garden she had made beside the tomb. Tiny lights grew in the plants like stars in the soil. She touched the soft petals and let tears fall. She spoke to the plants, begging them to share her loneliness. But they only grew more silent. She wrote letters she never sent. She addressed them to John, but tucked them into the cracks of the walls. She told him of her love and her hope. She wrote of the time when she found a new friend on a desert world. They laughed under twin suns. She wrote of the day markets sold metal birds that flew through the sky. She wrote of the dreams she had when she slept on cold stone floors. One day, she found a child lost near the hall. The child had no name and no home. Lily took her in and raised her beside John's tomb. The child learned to speak and walk in the silent hall. She called Lily sister and learned to tend the garden, but she grew old and fell to sleep. Lily wept and buried her memory in the soil. "I cannot lose you," Lily said. "Stay safe, little one." The years rolled on. Lily's hair sometimes caught a silver shine, but magic kept her young in body. Her heart carried centuries of pain and hope, but she did not give up. She spent nights reading old maps to track the path of approaching storms. She strengthened the hall's shields against earthquakes and comet strikes. She tested each seal. With careful steps, through it all, Lily believed in her vow. She believed that one day John's eyes would open. She believed she could wake him. She studied the anatomy of sleep and the energy flows of memory. She read the stories of healers who cured death. She worked until her voice grew hoarse and her mind blurred. Then, as another age began, Lily felt something new, a tremor beneath her feet, a soft glow under the glass. A pulse she could not ignore. She dropped her books and ran. She lit her lantern and raced to the tomb. Her heart pounded so loud she thought John might hear it. She reached the glass and pressed her hand against it. It felt warm, like blood under skin. She called, "John, wake up!" Her voice cracked. Her knees shook. For a moment, nothing moved. Then a single breath hissed out. Lily's heart leaped. She kneeled and lowered her ear to the glass. She heard a faint heartbeat, slow but clear. Tears welled in her eyes. She pounded her fist against the glass. "Open your eyes, please." The light from her lantern quivered. The plants in the garden seemed to lean toward the tomb. A voice echoed in her mind, "Lily." It was so soft she could barely believe it. She gasped. She pressed her hand harder. "John?" she whispered. "Is that you?" The glass fogged for a moment, then cleared. Lily's breath caught. She could see his chest rise. She could feel hope, fierce and bright, in her chest. Her vow had lasted centuries. Now it might end. Lily stayed, her face pressed to the glass, her heart filled with wonder and fear. She would not leave his side again. She would make sure he woke fully and safely. She would face whatever came next, and she would never stop believing. Lily watched the glass sarcophagus, her heart pounding. John's chest moved with a steady breath. She felt wonder, then fear. What would happen when he woke? She had prepared so long for this moment. Yet now she was not sure what to do. She pulled a small vial from her pouch. It held a clear liquid. This was the waking serum she had made from rare plants and alien crystals. She held it in her hand. It glowed faintly. She had tested it on broken machines and fallen animals. Each time, life stirred. She hoped it would work on John. She pressed her palm to the glass. She whispered, "John, I have something for you." Her voice shook. She raised the vial and found a small opening in the sarcophagus. She poured the serum gently onto his lips. It flowed like water over stone. She closed her eyes and prayed it would reach his heart. Minutes passed. Lily held her breath. The lantern's light flickered. The air felt still, as if waiting. Then John's chest rose again, but more deeply this time. His fingers twitched. Lily gasped. She knelt so close she could see each line on his face. His eyes opened. They were cloudy at first, then they cleared. He blinked and stared at the ceiling of the hall. He seemed confused. Lily placed her palm flat against the glass. She whispered, "John, it is me." His eyes shifted downward. He saw her reflection, his gaze fixed on her. For a moment he looked afraid. Then recognition sparked. He reached out a hand and pressed his palm against the glass from inside. Lily matched his movement on her side. Their hands were separated by a thin wall. John swallowed. He spoke in a weak voice. "Lily?" Lily's knees went weak. She knelt and pressed her ear to the glass. "Yes, John, it's me." Her voice trembled. She smiled through tears. John closed his eyes. He drew a shaky breath. He spoke again. I dreamed. I saw you." Lily's heart soared. "You are awake." "You are safe." He opened his eyes and looked around. He touched the inside glass and turned his head. He saw the garden, the lantern, and the high windows. His gaze fell on the stars shining through. He looked at Lily and tried to speak, but only a whisper came. Lily searched her pouch. She found a small carving of his face she had made long ago. She lifted it and showed it to him. He nodded. He pressed his forehead to the glass. Lily did not understand why he stayed inside. The locks had held him safe. But the opening had allowed only the serum. The tomb walls had not broken. Lily took a deep breath. She turned to the control panel she had built. It was old metal with glowing runes. She pressed a lever. The sarcophagus hissed. Faint mist coiled around John's feet. Lily covered her mouth. To keep from smiling, the seals opened, the glass lid lifted. John sat up, his body thin and pale. He closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them on Lily. She knelt at the edge and extended her hand. He looked at it, then took it. His skin was cool. He looked younger than her. She helped him stand. He swayed. She supported him. He looked. "At the hall and the garden, what happened?" he asked. Lily smiled gently. "You fell in battle. You saved many lives." John closed his eyes. He remembered. A great explosion, shields failing. He and Lily fighting side by side. He reached for her in darkness. He opened his eyes on Lily's face. She held him steady. "You have guarded my body for 500 years, she said. He stared at her. 500? His voice cracked. He blinked in disbelief. Lily nodded. "I have waited until you could wake." He let go of the glass. He looked around. His legs felt weak. Lily guided him to a chair she had placed. It was carved from pale wood and covered with soft cloth. He sat and leaned back, closing his eyes. Lily bent to fetch clean clothes she had made. She dressed him in soft fabric that fit his form. He stood and tested his arms. He breathed deeply. Lily watched him carefully. She had read that body's need. Time to adjust. She set fresh water and simple food on a small table. John drank slowly. He ate a soft fruit Lily had grown in the garden. He chewed with care, then looked at Lily. His eyes were filled with gratitude and sorrow. She knelt beside him. "You are safe now," she said. He reached for her hand. "I owe you my life." Lily shook her head. "You gave me a vow." John's eyes dimmed. He looked behind her as if he felt something closing in. He frowned. "We are not alone." Lily's heart clenched. She stood and went to the windows. She looked at the stars. They were still bright, but she sensed a dark presence. She felt a chill. John rose too. He stood beside Lily. His strength was returning. He peered out. "They are here," he said quietly. Lily knelt and opened a hidden panel in the wall. Inside were crystals of blue and red. She lifted one and held it high. Power pulsed through her veins. She whispered an ancient chant. Light spread across the garden. The vines glowed and the flowers shone like lanterns. The walls hummed with energy. John placed a hand on Lily's shoulder. His touch was warm, alive. He spoke softly. "What must we do?" Lily looked at him. Her eyes were steady. "We fight, together." John nodded. He glanced at his hands, remembering the feel of a sword. Lily moved to the control panel. She opened another door. Inside lay arms and weapons she had collected over the ages. A blade from the ice world, a rifle from the age of machines, and a shield she had formed from crystal shards. John chose the blade. He tested its weight. Lily took the shield and strapped it to her arm. They stood side by side. Outside the hall, a deep hum grew. The ground trembled. Shadows fell across the windows. Lily raised her shield and chanted. The shields outside the hall flared to life, creating a dome of light. John felt the power. His own pulse quickened. He remembered battle cries and the feel of metal in his hand. He took a breath and stepped toward the door. Lily called him back. She held a small crystal. Its glow was soft. She placed it in her palm and pressed it too. The door's lock. The door hissed and slid open. They looked out together. A field of war machines waited. Tall spires moved on legs. They spewed dark smoke into the sky. Behind them came soldiers in armor that glowed with red light. Lily raised her voice. She chanted words that bent the wind and the light. The shields flared brighter. The ground shook as the machines stepped forward. John planted his blade on the ground. He raised it high. The blade caught the light and shone like a star. He let out a cry of defiance. Lily held her shield before her. She whispered to the crystal shards. They floated around her like birds. The first machine fired. A beam of dark energy struck the shield. It held. The light shivered, then held strong. Lily and John charged together. Their feet pounded on the stone floor. They burst through the dome of light and into the field of war. The machines opened fire. Bullets and beams flew. Lily raised her shield and deflected them. John swung his blade. He cut through metal plating. Sparks flew. The soldiers hesitated. They had not expected to face these two. Lily called more light to her shield. John called strength to his blade. They fought side by side. Each swing and each chant formed a dance of power. They moved as one. The horde faltered. Lily's spells tore at their ranks. John's blade cut a path. The battle raged until the sun rose. Then the sky cleared. The machines lay broken. The soldiers fled. Lily and John stood among the wreckage. They looked at each other, breathing hard. John sheathed his blade. He reached for Lily's hand. She took it. She smiled. You are awake. He nodded. And you have fought for me. They stood together on the field of battle. The morning light shone on them. Lily felt relief and pride. She had kept her vow. John stood beside her, alive at last. Together, they walked back into the hall. They passed the garden and the lanterns. They stepped past the broken doors and the empty corridors. John looked around the hall. He saw the place he had slept for centuries. He saw the journals and the journals of Lily's life. He paused and laid a hand over his heart. He looked at Lily. Thank you, he said. Lily smiled. It is only the beginning. He nodded. He understood. They entered the hall where John had awoken. The stars shone through the windows. The world outside was quiet now, but they both knew it would not stay that way. They knelt before the sarcophagus. John placed a hand on the glass, and then turned. He placed both hands on Lily's. She felt his warmth. He spoke softly. I will guard you now. Lily's heart soared. She looked at him, her protector at last. They stood together, side by side, ready to face whatever came. Next, John and Lily stood in the silent hall after the battle. The broken machines and scattered weapons lay at their feet. John's heart still beat fast. He looked at Lily. We did it, he said. Lily nodded. Her shield glowed softly as she held it. They will come back, she said. This horde is only the first wave. John's face grew serious. He sheathed his blade and picked up a broken machine part. He studied it. They use these walkers in many systems, he said. They will rebuild. Lily placed a hand on his shoulder. We must prepare. We need allies. We need supplies. John set the part down. He turned toward the hall entrance. Then let us leave this place. We will travel to the nearest world and warn them. Lily hesitated. The hall is safe. The shields are strong here. She looked at the glass sarcophagus where he had slept. But I know you must see the stars again. John nodded. I have waited 500 years. I must walk beneath the sky. Lily smiled. She lifted her shield and pressed a button. A panel slid open, revealing a path he had never seen. It led down spiral stairs of pale stone. Lily held her lantern high. "Follow me," she said. They descended into darkness. The stairs wound downward until they reached a vault. The vault door was heavy metal, marked with ancient symbols. Lily placed a crystal shard into a slot. The door hummed and opened. Inside was a small ship. It was old but well kept. Its hull was brushed metal with lines of blue light. Lily had repaired it over the ages. She led John inside. The cabin was small but clean. There were seats and a control panel with glowing runes. John ran his hand along the metal. "This is your ship?" Lily nodded. "I built it from old parts. It can travel between the stars." John smiled. "Then we will use it." He took the pilot's seat and studied the controls. Lily climbed beside him. She flipped a lever. The engines hummed. Light filled the ship. John pulled another lever and the hatch sealed. Lily spoke the chant. Words of power filled the cabin. The engines roared. Then the ship lifted. They rose through the hall's ceiling and into the sky. They emerged above the hall. Below them lay broken horde machines and the silent bodies of soldiers. Further out was the world Lily had protected. It glowed with blue seas and pale sand. John leaned forward. "Set course for Argus 4, he said. "The colony there is strong." "They will help us." Lily pressed runes on the panel. The ship tilted and stars shifted on the viewport. They flew at a gentle speed. The engine's hum was like a song to Lily's ears. John studied a star chart. "Argus 4 is 2 systems away. It will take 2 days at warp speed." Lily nodded. "Then we have 2 days to rest and plan." John closed his eyes. "I am tired," he said. "I have dreamt of waking, but not of walking." Lily reached out and touched his hand. "Rest now, I will guard you." She placed her shield and blade beside his seat. She leaned back and closed her eyes. John touched her hand. "Thank you," he whispered. Hours they sat in silence. The ship glided through space. The stars passed by like ribbons of light. Lily kept watch. She studied the runes and shields, adjusting them when needed. John slept. He slumped in the seat, his breathing slow. Lily saw his chest rise and fall. She smiled. She felt relief. He was alive and safe. At midnight, she awoke him. "We are near Argus 4, she said. John opened his eyes. He looked at the passcode on the panel. "Good, let us prepare." He rose and walked to the weapons locker. He strapped on his blade and picked up a rifle. Lily stood by the controls. She checked the shields and weapons. She carried her crystal shield. "Ready?" she said. John nodded. He opened the hatch. They stepped into the ship's airlock, then out onto the landing pad of Argus 4. The air was warm and smelled of spice. The sun hung low on the horizon. Red clouds drifted slowly. John and Lily blinked in the light. They saw structures made of tall spires and glass. People in robes walked the streets. They moved with calm steps, their faces hidden by hoods. Lily pressed a button on her shield. It glowed softly. John held his rifle. At the ready, they walked toward the nearest building. A guard appeared. He wore silver armor and a helmet that showed only his eyes. He raised a hand and spoke in a deep voice. "State your reason for visiting." John looked at Lily. He took a breath. "We come with warning. A horde moves toward this system. We need your help." The guard studied them. He lowered his hand and turned. He walked to a great door. He pressed a symbol, and the door slid open. John and Lily stepped inside. They found themselves in a large hall. The floor was polished stone. The walls were lined with maps of the stars. At the far end, a council sat behind a long table. The council members wore robes of green and gold. Their faces were lined with age. They looked up as John and Lily entered. One spoke, his voice soft but clear. "You were lost long ago. Many believed you dead." John bowed his head. "I was asleep. My guardian kept me safe." He motioned to Lily. "She is the one who watched over me." The council studied Lily. One of them, a woman with silver hair, spoke. 500 years? You have guarded him for 5 centuries? Lily nodded. She spoke quietly. "He promised to defend this world." He died in battle. I vowed to protect his body until he could wake again. The council murmured. The woman rose. Your vow is great. Your patience is endless. We welcome you. John stepped forward. We come with a warning. The horde we fought here is only the beginning. They march across the stars, and they will destroy us all if we do not stand together. The council exchanged looks. The silver-haired woman turned. What proof do you have? John motioned to Lily. She guided me here on a ship she built. The battle outside the hall brought evidence of their machines. We bring parts and stories. We have seen their ranks. Lily placed a shard of machine on the table. The council studied it by torchlight. They handed it around. The silver-haired woman nodded slowly. This is known. The horde moves. Many systems have sent pleas for help. John and Lily shared a look. They had hoped others would stand. This was the first step. The woman turned to her. Council, they whispered among themselves. Then she spoke again. We will send ships and warriors. We will also send healers and builders. We will stand with you. John bowed his head. Lily smiled. The woman raised a hand. Welcome, guardian and hero, to the alliance of Arges 4. She motioned to the doors. Feast and rest now. Tomorrow we plan war. John and Lily walked out into the light. The sky was red and gold. They stopped on the landing pad. John turned to Lily. We did it. They will help us. He reached for her hand. She took it. This is only the beginning. They looked at each other, hope shining in their eyes. Together they had awakened a hero and summoned allies. A new battle loomed, but they would face it side by side. And in the heart of the alliance, they would protect each other as they had always promised. After their meeting with the Council of Arges 4, John and Lily returned to the ship. The landing pad was empty now, lit by soft lanterns along its edge. Lily secured her crystal shield at her side. John slung his blade over his shoulder. They climbed into the cabin. John took a seat and stared at the star map. The meeting had gone well, but he felt the weight of war on his chest. Lily sat beside him, her eyes calm. John broke the silence. We need a plan, he said. They will. Send ships, but we must lead them. We must show the Alliance the best way to fight. Lily nodded. You are right. We have time before the Horde reaches the next world. John traced a path on the map. We should strike at their supply lines. Their machines run on crystals. If we cut off their crystal mines, we slow them. Lily leaned forward. There is a system with a crystal planet. It lies between us and the Horde's path. John's eyes brightened. Then we go there first. We gather allies and raid the mines. Lily smiled. We do it together. They set coordinates for the crystal planet, Carmony's 4. The ship hummed. As it lifted from the pad, stars streaked across the VIEWPORT dot on the way. They sailed in silence. John watched the engines glow. Lily tended the shield runes. After many hours, the planet came into view. It was red and jagged with shimmering crystal spires. Lily guided the ship down through clouds of dust. They landed on a rocky plain. Crystals jutted from the ground like towers. The sun's rays split into prisms of light. Lily and John stepped out. The air felt cool and dry. John tested the ground with his blade. Lily held her shield. Stay close, she said. They moved between the crystal spires, careful not to break them. Each one pulsed with energy. John studied the runes on the crystals. These feed the machine's core, he said. If we shatter them, the Horde will slow. Lily nodded. She tapped a rune on her shield. The shield pulsed in reply. They worked quietly. John swung his blade against the lower crystals. Each strike sent bright sparks into the sky. Lily chanted and directed energy at the larger spires. When a crystal cracked, it exploded in shards. The shards floated like butterflies before crashing. Back into the ground, they heard voices behind them. John and Lily turned. A small force of soldiers from Arges 4 emerged from the rocks. They wore light armor and carried rifles. Their leader, Captain Maya, stepped forward. She raised a hand. We join you, guardian and hero. Lily nodded. Good, we need all help we can get. John addressed the soldiers. Follow us. We will move on their mines next. They gathered around and followed Lily and John deeper. Into the crystal fields. As they walked, Maya spoke quietly to John. Your shield's energy is strong. How do you create it? John looked at Lily. She placed a hand on his arm and smiled. Lily answered, It is an old magic, from the first healers. It can protect or destroy depending on my will. Maya nodded. She looked at John. And you? Your blade cuts through the hardest metal. John bowed. It was forged on an ice world. It carries the strength of cold. Maya smiled. Together we will break the horde. They reached a ravine where crystal mines lay. Machines with long arms carved at the walls. Crystals glowed in their claws. The horde soldiers stood guard. They were tall and armored, their eyes shining red behind helmets. John turned to Lily. Now. Lily raised her shield. Light bloomed around it. She shouted the chant. Energy rippled from the shield, like a pulse. John charged with his blade. He leapt onto a machine platform. He struck the armature. Sparks flew. The guard soldiers fired. Maya and her men took cover and returned fire. Lily held her shield before her. Bullets and beams bounced off. John ran along the platform and jumped to the next machine. He swung his blade at a crystal cluster. It shattered. A wave of energy surged from the broken crystal. It knocked soldiers back. Iris of dust and glass filled the air. Lily threw her shield forward. It hovered and spun, slicing through metal supports. The machine's arms fell apart. The horde soldiers faltered. Maya's troops charged. They fought with skill and bravery. John leapt down and joined the soldiers. He moved like a dancer, his blade cutting through armor. Lily raised her shield high. She called more magic. Crystals cracked around the ravine, sending shockwaves. Within minutes, the horde machines lay in piles of broken metal. The soldiers fired one last volley and cheered. Maya ran to John and Lily. She saluted. The mines are ours. John wiped sweat from his brow. Good work, everyone. Lily lowered her shield. She looked at the crystal spires. They still glowed softly. Maya spoke. What now? John answered. We collect the shards and use them to power our defenses. Lily nodded. And we warn the next world. They gathered the broken crystals. The soldiers loaded them into packs. Lily and John led the way back to the ship. John paused at the edge of the ravine. He looked at the crystals. He remembered Lily's first days guarding him. He turned to Lily. I could not have done this without you. Lily smiled. We do this together. John nodded. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Together, they climbed into the ship. As the hatch closed, Lily looked at John. Tomorrow we fight again, she said. John sat and studied the crystal shards. We will win, he said softly. Lily smiled. Because we stand together. The stars waited beyond the viewport. John and Lily readied themselves for the next battle, side by side, their vow renewed with each passing light year. John and Lily returned to the ship, their arms full of crystal shards and supplies. The night sky was pinpricked with distant lights. John locked the hatch and turned to Lily. We did well today, he said. Lily nodded. We weakened the horde. Now we must reinforce the alliance. She placed the crystal shards into energy converters she had built. They hummed as light filled their cores. John watched the process. This power will help shield worlds? Lily smiled. Yes, it will buy time for defense and recovery. She held his gaze. You should rest. He hesitated. I feel alive for the first time in centuries, but I do feel tired. Lily guided him to the cabin. She closed the door and lit a small lamp. I will keep watch, she said. You need strength. John sat on the narrow bed and lay back. His breath grew steady. He closed his eyes. Lily watched him until he slept. She rose and studied star charts on the table. She marked the path to 3 other worlds in the alliance. Each would need crystal power and warriors. She aligned the ship's course to the next target. At dawn, John awoke. Lily was at the helm. She looked to him with a gentle smile. Time to go, she said. John stood and stretched. He felt strong. He strapped his blade at his waist. Lily lifted her shield. They stepped into the airlock. They emerged onto a floating platform in space. It was part of a defense fleet orbiting the colony of Thesa 9. Sleek ships floated nearby like silent guardians. John and Lily approached a command station built on the platform. Officers in blue uniforms awaited them. One stepped forward. "Welcome, heroes of Argus 4, the officer said. "We heard of your victory," John nodded. "We bring crystal power and a call for unity." The officer guided them inside. They found engineers and soldiers gathered around machines powered by the crystals from Carmines 4. The defenses glowed with blue light. An engineer showed them. "With these crystals, our shields have doubled in strength. We repelled a horde." "Probe yesterday?" John placed a hand on the display. "This is good work. But we need more." He looked at Lily. "Our next goal is the next world." He pointed to a planet on the star map. Lily nodded. "Thesa 9 can send pilots and healers, then we move on." She turned to the officer. "Will you join us in person?" The officer bowed. "I will lead the pilots." He motioned to a group of pilots in their ships. "We leave at once." John and Lily prepared the ship. They loaded supplies and welcomed the new allies. Lily showed them how to link the crystals to their shields. The pilots launched first, flying to escort the ship. John and Lily climbed aboard and took the helm. The ship jumped to warp. They emerged near their next destination, a world under siege. Smoke rose from burning cities below. The horde machines rampaged. Lily set the ship down on a mountaintop overlooking the city. John and the pilots disembarked. Lily drew her shield and placed crystals in the soil around them. She chanted. Light grew in circles around the hill. Below, the machines hesitated. The pilots swooped down, firing on the horde. John led a squad of soldiers down the slope. They met the machines head-on. His blade flashed in the morning sun, cutting through enemy ranks. Lily stayed above, lending power to the pilots and the soldiers. Each chant strengthened the shields and healed the wounded. By midday, the city was safe. The horde retreated into the desert. The people emerged from hiding. They cheered John and Lily. A leader of the city, Mayor Tavon, approached them. He was tall and thin, his robes bright with color. "You have saved us," he said. "We pledge our forces to the Alliance." John bowed. "We thank you." He looked at Lily. "Your magic and my blade, they are enough to inspire hope." Lily smiled. "Hope is the greatest shield." She turned to the retreating horde. "They will not break us while we stand together." "Mayor." Tavon nodded. "We will rebuild and train more warriors." He placed his hand on Lily's arm. "We are grateful for your gift." John and Lily left the city at dusk. They flew back to their ship. John looked at Lily's face, lit by the sunset. He spoke softly. "This journey has shown me many worlds, but I walk best by your side." Lily's cheeks warmed. "And I guard better when you lead the fight?" She reached out and took his hand. They flew into the stars toward the final world in the Alliance, a distant planet of scholars and healers. There, they would prepare the final defense. John and Lily sat side by side at the helm. The stars stretched ahead like silver threads. They held hands, ready for the last battle. Together, they had guarded and been guarded, fought and been protected. Their vow had bound them for centuries. Now their bond would save the galaxy.